This here boat has 2 engines with 2 batteries, and it also has all of these electronics up here. So what we want to do is add a house battery, being this right here. We're going to be using this add a battery with an ACR. It's got the switch there, but we are also going to be adding a house battery switch in with it. So we're going to be going up here into this console, and we're going to be adding a battery in here that's going to be for all of the house stuff, meaning all this equipment here is going to run off of the house battery, and we're going to add a switch so that that could be turned on, as well as the other 2 engine batteries, to isolate his house equipment from his starting batteries, just so if we go out to the sandbar and leave the radio on with the GPS and all that other stuff, we don't burn the batteries, can't start the engines, stranded at the sandbar, not a good thing. First, Donnie's gonna put our battery up there, and I'm gonna change all this wiring back here. I already took the battery switches out. I'll show you those because they were in really rough shape. And this was the house wire that was going up there, feeding all of the electrical equipment. So we went ahead and ran these right here, which is an 8-gauge wire down from a 10-gauge to supply power, charging power up there to the battery, and then we're going to be using power from the helm to power from the house battery all of the electronics in the boat. That's going to be way better than running this 25 feet of 10-gauge wire all the way up to the switches, because then the switches just jumpered over from each other. So this 10-gauge wire right here came in, it went up to here, and then just daisy chained over, boom, 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 and that's how everything is being powered. So we're going to add that house battery down here, so that way we can have direct power from the house battery up to our daisy chain and go from there. We might even put in another distribution block for the power, so that way we can eliminate. There was a lot of these in here too. There's a lot of just added connectors that you don't want in an electrical connection. So in the electrical circuit, you want as little connection points as possible. So we're going to eliminate as many as we can, just to make sure that there's minimal failure points. Now I'm actually going to be making some new cables here, mainly because the cables that came out of the boat were all pretty toasted. I mean, if you look at that, it's quite a lot of corrosion, and even when you clean that off, it's just not good. It's not worth trying to reuse these battery switches. Is the biggest problem that we had in this boat. All that corrosion inside there. So what would happen is the trim tabs, when you use the trim tabs, it would turn off the GPS, and a lot of times that's because you got high resistance and a massive voltage drop, which is all that grain stuff right there on the battery switch. That's what was causing that voltage drop. If I could find the other battery switch, I'll show you how bad it was. Looks like it. Boom. See, look at that. I mean, these were toasted. So if you look at your battery switch and you got something that looks like that, that's going to be your biggest problem when it comes to losing power on your components when you use other components. Okay, so we've got our battery switch all working and hooked up. This goes to the port engine, the other one goes to the starboard engine, and then those two come down. One comes over here to this battery, and the other one comes over to this battery. So now you've got on the back of this switch, so you've got 4 positions on the back of this switch. 1, is going to be these two. 2 is going to be these two. So this is 1 battery and 1 engine accessory, whatever. 1 battery, 1 engine accessory, or whatever. So when you flip this thing over, it's only a single position switch. So you turn this on and it lets both of those run. Then you got this combined right here where you can turn this thing over to the combined, and that will connect these together. So that way both of these are going to pull from both batteries at the same time. And that's basically how we've got it wired up there. So they're on, but they're separate, and now they're combined, so both these batteries can feed both electronic sides. So that's hooking up those batteries. Now we need to hook up our ACR here, and this is pretty simple too, because this right here is a charge relay, and it just senses charging power and disconnects when it's not charging. So once this thing gets above, like, I don't know, I think it's like 12.7 or 13.1 or something like that, as soon as it sees that charging voltage coming in here, which we're going to bring from our batteries from here, from there up to here, and then on the other side we're going to take it and go to this wire, which goes up to our house battery. That way when the engines are charging these batteries, this thing's going to let the power go through it to here to charge that house battery, and then it'll disconnect whenever there is not charging voltage here. So it won't drain our starting batteries from the house battery. These are going to be the fuses that we're going to use for circuit protection on our ACR. They basically just kind of sit on this thing here, and then you've got this that screws down on top of it. Alright, so we got our ACR hooked up, ground, that one's going to the house. Got our fuse on here for the batteries back here. Now we just need to put the other fuse, this, up on the house battery, and we'll have a successful ACR install. We didn't really go over how to make the battery cables or the diagnosing of the charging and all that, but we cover a lot of that in the academy. If you guys wanted to check that out, we go over how to make battery cables, a lot more in-depth training on these ACRs and how these should be done. So if you want to check that out at bornagainboating.com, you can do that. Donnie's up here putting the switch in. He's pretty much done. He's got our battery switch over here, so now the house is going to turn on that. He's just finishing up wiring up to there. Our battery is in down there, so we're pretty much rocking and rolling. And now all he's got to do is basically turn the engines on, and as long as that house switch is on, all his house stuff will come on, and his engines are going to automatically charge his house battery that's up here. So now he won't have any worry about having a dead battery or a, you know, powering these electronics. So we got 13.41 on this battery here with the engines running, and then we got our ACR with the ground and our power and everything. So these batteries are charging from the engine, which is then charging our house battery.